Can you change your identity? Short answer, yes. Long answer, it's pretty complicated. So that's why, unless you're willing to put a ton of work, don't waste your time. Go do something else in the next 5-10 minutes. You're just gonna waste your time with this video. This being said, my name is Niki, and I used to be a very shy, introverted kid. I used to suck at social interactions. I even didn't have a lot of friends to begin with. And fast forward to where I'm right now, I've done a lot of solo travel, been to basically all the way from Alaska, all the way down to New Zealand. Definitely way more confident, way more social, and a very different person than what I used to be just a few years back, or even all the way back to when I was a kid. The point I'm trying to make here is that change is possible. I can do it, you can do it, everybody can do it. And that's the first point towards making an identity shift. Realizing that very few things about your character are fixed, and a lot of this, basically who you are is just who you are at this point in time, but it can definitely change. You don't have to keep being the same person. To illustrate this with an example, you can make yourself, I mean, that's insane, but it actually works. You can make yourself fall in love with someone and even fall in love with a certain type of person, or go the other road where you can make yourself hate certain type of people. A good example is sometimes when let's say you're having a fight with your loved one. You love them, but at this very point in time, you hate them. You no longer love them, it's a completely different sensation. And you may say, you know what, yeah, that's normal, it happens sometimes. Yeah, it does. But for you, that's a real thing that's happening. That's a real identity shift that really changed from you loving someone to hating them. And if you put in some effort to maintain that change long enough, it will become permanent. And you can even dial it up a notch, take it to the next level, and not only have it on the micro level where you only don't like that specific person anymore, but go on the macro level where you are going from enjoying certain type or preferring certain type of characteristics, not just in one person, but in general in everybody. So everybody who exhibits those characteristics, you no longer find them attractive. And this goes to show that you can do this basically with everything in your life. This kind of goes for about your food preferences, people preferences, and everything else. Just who you are as a being can change. But the big thing there is that while there are fluctuations all the time, so how you're viewing the world, what you're enjoying, what you're not enjoying, is going to change sometimes, but it's always going to go to the baseline. If you cause a significant amount of change and you maintain it for some time, then your baseline is going to change. So you're going to become from one person who enjoys certain type of things and exhibits certain types of characteristics to a completely different person. So again, this is the very first step towards change. Realize that it's possible. Very few things about you will never change. Most of them can change provided you really put in some effort. Which leads us to the second point. You want to have some kind of a strategy. Okay, you know you can change. Let's say you want to become more confident or more social. All good. But a lot of those, let's call them goals, are very vague. They don't tell you anything. They don't give you anything to work with. So, okay, you're supposed to be more confident, but what does it mean? This is where you need to plan, break it down, and create a list of all the characteristics. What do confident people do? So the activities that they engage in, basically what it means to become a confident person. And then take it to the next level. Not only what they do and the characteristics that they exhibit, but also how it feels to be a confident person. And we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but keep in mind that if you're someone who is not confident, it may be very hard for you to even realize how it feels to be confident. It's like so alien. But the good thing is that me, you, we all share the same biological machinery, the same hardware. And this means that if we have the same hardware, you can install the same software. It's just that some people already have those programs running. Some people, they don't have them yet, but they're perfectly capable in installing those programs as well. So it's actually easier to realize how it feels to be confident, how it feels to be more social, or whatever you're going for. You may need to put in some work, do a little bit more research, or even like talk to people, just ask them. If you have some confident friends, how does it feel? How do you feel in certain situations? But basically have a plan, have a strategy. However, you want to still be aware of your strengths and weaknesses. While you can change a lot of things about yourself, certain things, certain aspects of your character are going to be easier to change than some other things. So let's say you are very shy, you're very introverted, you want to become a very social person. And what does it mean to be social? This means that you can probably engage in different conversations, hold a conversation, and freely just keep the flow going. Which also means that you probably need to do a lot of talking and listening. I mean, there's always going to be someone who's going to be listening, someone who's going to be talking. As an introverted person, just hypothetically, for the sake of the example, let's assume that you suck at engaging and starting conversations and talking and maintaining the flow. But you're probably better as someone who is a listener. You're pretty good at this. You can pretty much look at the other person, try to figure out what kind of person they are. You can basically do a lot of analysis. You're good at analyzing characters and responding to that character. But talking is the part where you really suck. So if you're trying to become more social, try to leverage mostly the stuff that you're good at, meaning you're a good listener, and try to rely more on listening skills as opposed to more of the talking skills. So this means that if you want to be more social, just focus on getting the other person to talk a little bit more and focus more on listening. Obviously, the more they talk, at some point you're going to get to know them, you're going to feel a little bit more secure, you're going to loosen up a little bit, and you're going to start talking a little bit more. But while you're planning what you need to do, the characteristics, the feelings, and so on, and emotions that you're trying to move towards, also consider your strengths and weaknesses and try to build mostly on your strengths and weaknesses. You can still develop those areas of your character, but it's just going to be a little bit harder. And in the beginning, you have to take some baby steps and not be too aggressive because you're just going to get overwhelmed. Which is a good transition for the third point. You know that change is possible. You know that you have a plan. Now you need to put in the work. Put that plan into action. And there are two main ways you can go about this. You can have the active approach and passive approach, something that I discussed in a previous video. But the active approach is what you're doing mostly on a conscious level. So you know what confident people do, basically engage in similar type of activities, put yourself in similar situations, and it also refers to your conscious brain, the internal voice in your head. What it's saying, basically try to pay attention to what that internal voice is saying and try to steer it towards a certain direction. Obviously, your internal voice is going to be depending on who you are at the moment. So it's probably going to tell you you're a shy person, you don't take risks, you don't usually do this kind of thing. You need to shut up that voice and start changing the narrative in your head. Because whatever you're saying, whatever your thoughts are, eventually they're going to become permanent. They're going to cause a permanent change in what is your narrative to begin with. And of course, it's going to take some time. But as you know, a lie told 100 times becomes true. So that's why if you change your narrative, you can eventually change the baseline of what that voice is actually talking most of the time, saying most of the time. Then we're getting into the subconscious. That's why when you're creating your list, you're not only focusing on what the type of people that you're trying to emulate are doing and how they're thinking, but also how they're feeling. And this is a little bit trickier and it's going to take some time. But generally speaking, you want to diffuse negative emotions or emotions and feelings that are not relevant to the change you're trying to accomplish, and try to pay attention to whenever you're feeling those emotions that are exactly the ones that the person you're trying to emulate is feeling most of the time. So memorize how it feels and try to replicate it and basically practice feeling this way while diffusing all the negative emotions that you want to get rid of. It's a fairly complicated process. That's why I'm going to put a link down below in order to change your mental state and change how you're thinking, change the narrative in your head. So both all of this active approach that comes down to your subconscious and your consciousness. Just check the link below. It explains the process, how this should happen, what you should do. Quick note there, it's a long process. It's going to take a lot of effort. Changing what goes in your brain may take months, years, or even decades. It is a very slow, gradual process, depending, of course, on how extreme you want to make that change. Then this is the active approach. You also have the passive approach, which is mostly related to the situation, the environment, and the people that you surround yourself with. So your surroundings are going to cause certain associations, basically all the associations of who you are at the moment, and they're going to reinforce your old identity. But if you put yourself in a different situation, you're going to start reinforcing different types of behavior. So by switching your environment, switching who you surround yourself with, so if most of your friends are very shy, they're not very confident, you're going to keep reinforcing those same type of behavior on you. But if you put yourself in a situation where most of the people are super confident, you're going to start emulating, you're going to become more like them. So that's why the passive approach, you don't really need to be very proactive, at least past the beginning stage where you make that transition. Word of caution, you don't want to be too aggressive. While you do want to step outside of your zone of comfort, you don't want to step too far outside because you're going to get overwhelmed. So let's say if you don't feel very confident when you're in a social interaction, well, logically you may be thinking like, if I'm very shy, maybe I should do sales, and this would force me to be more talkative, to get used to interacting with people. That's all good, but it may be too aggressive where you get so overwhelmed that you eventually give up. Maybe put yourself in a situation where you need to be a little bit more social, but not too social, still outside of the comfort zone, but enough for you to manage it. So maybe put yourself, like start talking to people online, or maybe get into customer service, something something a little bit more mild, not the complainant department or something like this, where you may get, again, like too overwhelmed. Baby step it, take it slow, and be patient. Change takes a lot of time. All right, that's it all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm gonna leave you with something for you to Google. The magic word, actually magic 2 words, are Hydra dominatus. Just Google this online, see what's up, and yep, cheers, till next time.